Okay. So I have fixed the audio. Now, why is the video stuck? Hey, there we go. All right. Well, that's fun. So, what had happened was okay. Well, it's always fun because there's, I don't know, 10, 15, 20-second lag between what I see and what I do and then what I see on the stream. So, I'm waiting. Why is it being difficult? So, interestingly, this seems to be working fine on YouTube. Okay, maybe it's working now. All right. Well, maybe this is going to work. Maybe it's not. It is working on YouTube if anybody is so inclined to hop over there. It's pretty much the same interface. Well, I mean, it's a similar interface. There's not a whole lot of difference there. I'm going to go ahead and close that because I should still be able to see all the chat windows and everything. Um, so this might be working. It might not be working. We're going to see. We're going to find out. We're going to see what happens. I don't know. I have no explanation for what's going on. I can say that we haven't had tech issues quite like this in a while. I don't know. We're going to give it a shot. Like I said, the stream seems to be a little bit more stable over on YouTube if you happen to want to hop over there. It hasn't been as broken. I don't know what the issue is with Facebook. All right. Well, we're going to keep on going just in case because I think it's largely working now. Except now, still seeing some interruptions, but it is what it is, I guess. I got no explanation. So, let's see. Where is that coming through at? So, I can tell you the thing is working great over on YouTube. I don't know what Facebook's problem is today. Now it's okay. Now it's working again. I don't know. We're going to drive forward. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to start all the way back at the beginning just in case anybody else is out there. My name is Mike Hess because you can catch these in the archive on Facebook and on YouTube. Anyway, my name is Mike Hess, COPD educator, a respiratory therapist, working to create more awareness for COPD, especially in light of everybody's attention is kind of focused on this whole pandemic thing right now, and rightly so. It is a huge drain on our healthcare system right now. but we also need to be using this opportunity to start planning ahead. I know that seems a little bit um, crazy for some people. Maybe it's just the interruptions are on my end. I don't know. But we need to start planning ahead for the future, because the issues that we're seeing with the response to this pandemic are very similar to issues that we see in response to other large scale chronic conditions like COPD. We know that we don't have enough clinicians, whatever of any stripe, to do the appropriate level of education and intervention and all that kind of stuff to get people going on to what they need with their to help them manage their symptoms and stuff most efficiently. How to use your inhalers, how to know that you're on the right medications, and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things that I want to do with shows like this is give people the tools that they need to be equal partners in their care with the clinicians, and continue to raise attention for things like COPD and asthma. Well, I mean, everybody kind of knows asthma, but COPD in particular, because these are the kind of things that go unrecognized even when there isn't a pandemic going on. I mentioned while I was still on mute, I saw a fantastic editorial op-ed thing in U.S. News and World Report by a very solid respiratory therapist out of Chicago, one of the smartest RTs I know, a gentleman by the name of Brady Scott, who does fantastic work with advocacy and education and all kinds of stuff, who points out that we don't have enough RTs to handle our situation right now, and we again, it's a highlight of where we need respiratory therapists going forward. This is a great time. I know, again, this is crisis and everybody is concerned, and rightly so, but we need to start looking ahead to this kind of thing will happen again eventually. And this kind of thing, the lessons that we learned from this kind of situation can be adapted to ongoing problems. For example, we don't have enough respiratory therapists for a pandemic. We know that. We also know that we don't have enough respiratory therapists for disease management in the outpatient world. We don't have enough primary care practitioners to handle that stuff. We don't have enough pulmonary rehab. So what are the channels that we're going to use to fix that, to help drive those things forward, and to make sure that we are a more resilient system in the future? I don't have all the answers. I do know that there are a lot of ways we can deliver healthcare more efficiently. And that's one of the reasons I have down at the bottom here. I want to shout out all my respiratory therapists out there right now. I am also a respiratory therapist, so I know I'm a little bit biased, but what many of you may not know is today was supposed to be the first day of our Michigan Society for Respiratory Care spring conference. And due to the shelter-in-place order, like with many gatherings out there, we had to cancel that several weeks ago. And this event is great for learning experiences. It's great for networking. It's great for peer-to-peer stuff. I talk about that a lot in our group on Facebook, COPD Navigator. Peer-to-peer education is fantastic. There's a lot of times where we, in very well meaning, will say, I know how you feel, but we can't really express that unless you're walking the path. So it's nice to have these in-person gatherings to share information and so on and so forth. We had to cancel that today, and arguably, we had to cancel that a while back. Today was the day it was supposed to start. Unfortunately, we know that this is probably the time where a lot of us could use it the most. We have a lot of people who are out there very stressed, under a lot of pressure, without enough equipment, without enough support staff, without enough of anything really. And there aren't enough respiratory therapists. So if you have a moment just to kind of drop some nice words to an RT that you may know, if you find, a lot of our respiratory societies are on Facebook. So if you live in Florida, search up the Florida Society for Respiratory Care. Michigan, we have the Michigan Society for Respiratory Care. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Maine, wherever you are, try to find your local Society for Respiratory Care, or you can go to the American Association for Respiratory Care. Find one of their posts and just drop a little note of support. It doesn't even have to be a thank you. We don't have people who are really looking for thank yous or anything like that. We just want people to know I would like people to let RTs know that you're thinking of them. So if that's the one thing I can ask of anybody today, please go out and do that. As far as actual COPD stuff, we don't really have a lot of new news out there right now. As you might expect, a lot of research is kind of on hold right now. I'm looking off to the side here because I'm trying to see if there is anything brand new out there. Of course, we will get deeper dive as we get into next Wednesday's episode when we're getting back into the regular Breathe TV stuff. I will point out that while not strictly COPD related, April has been designated as Sarcoidosis Awareness Month, and yesterday we heard a little bit from Sam Hall, who lives with sarcoidosis and is an inventor and patient advocate and all kinds of good stuff, who has the O2 safety strap. So I was hoping he could be here today. Maybe he would have been here had everything not broken down right at the beginning, but what are you going to do? So this is Sarcoid Awareness Month. Our COPD month comes up down in November, so hopefully things will be a little bit more organized by then, a little bit better in place, and we'll be able to have some better celebrations and all that kind of stuff. One thing I did see come across the line is if you happen to know or if you happen to work for a nonprofit community organization, the NHLBI is once again, National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute is once again accepting applications for COPD awareness projects. They have a request for proposals out there. The organization I work for, most of the time, the medical school here in Kalamazoo, when we're not having our difficulties, our systemic difficulties, we were fortunate enough to have earned one of these last year, one of these community subcontracts, and we were able to do some community spirometry testing and some outreach inside some of our less fortunate areas of Kalamazoo, just trying to raise awareness. We had some billboards up, which was really cool. And that was a great experience altogether. That was in 2000. What year is this now? It seems like it's 3000 and something now, but that was 2018, I believe. We had those billboards up for COPD Awareness Month, and that was pretty cool. So if you have some connections with an organization, you might be able to pull together an application for that and get that going in your neck of the woods. So, hello to Jan checking in from, I believe, in that Illinois area. So thank you for stopping by, Jan, another COPD advocacy captain, COPD Foundation advocacy captain. So, I'm looking at, right now I'm looking at COPD News Today, which is usually a pretty good source for a lot of the information we talk about on COPD Navigator. And one to kind of give you an idea of where the state of research is right now, from about 5 days ago, there was a study that came out that says that COPD patients are vulnerable to severe COVID-19 infections, which I'm sure is shocking to everybody out there. Not really. We know that if you have a chronic condition like COPD, or like many of the things that go along with it, cardiac stuff like high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, other things like diabetes, we know that those have been hitting people a little bit harder. And so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it's good to quantify that with a study, but that just kind of tells you right now where things are. There's not a lot going on in terms of research and development and all that stuff. So that's that. Don't really know what more to say about that. Kind of obvious. So what else is going on in COPD? So I don't know if anybody can actually still hear me or not. We're going to keep rolling with it. If you have questions, if you know somebody who has a question, go let them know. We're going to be sticking around here for a little while at least, now that things seem to be kind of sort of for the moment, knock on wood, working properly. Bring them on board. Again, this is a group effort. We need to try to raise awareness and increase. I've got my T-shirt on from a couple years ago, raising COPD awareness for the COPD Foundation. We need to spread the word as much as possible, and the easiest way to do that, honestly, is through social media. So if we can get people paying attention to ongoing conditions like COPD, then we're going to do a lot better on the other side of all this stuff. So if you have any questions, make sure you're dropping them into the comments, whether you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're at. Drop them in there and let me know what's on your mind, whether it's pandemic stuff, whether it's COPD stuff. We've been doing this all week at 4 o'clock. Just as kind of a check-in for social things. We want to make sure that while the phrase social distancing is really the biggest thing we've been talking about, what we really want to be talking about is remaining social, but from a distance. We want to make sure that you still have that person-to-person contact that is so important in making sure that you're not in a bad place with anxiety or depression, with isolation, all that kind of fun stuff. We want to make sure that you're taken care of and trying to have some of that connection day to day. Yeah, like I said, on Facebook, this thing is not going well, but hop on over to YouTube and we should still have lots of questions and answers and all that stuff. Joe asked, do you have an open, direct, unobstructed microphone? I sure do. I can turn up the gain a little bit. I was messing with that a little bit. As I mentioned, this was this was supposed to be our first day of our state respiratory conference, and with that comes usually comes a House of Representatives meeting, which I was participating in, and that was a video conference, and so the settings for that are a little bit different than what they would normally be for this type of activity. So there were a couple of settings changed, and we were on mute for quite a while right at the beginning here. So I'm going to pop in my headphones here and just kind of check my levels a little bit. First, I'll check them right from the source here, I guess. So let's see. Coming through pretty good on the mic itself. So from a technological standpoint, maybe I wasn't sitting as close as I usually do. So it's always hard to tell. This is a better microphone than I should probably have, to be perfectly honest with you. So now I'm going to take a listen to see how it's coming through on YouTube, or on Facebook at least, if I can get a consistent signal. It keeps dropping out on my end a lot, so it's been, oh yeah. So on my end, things seem to be going okay, Joe. So that's all I can say. My mic is, it is indeed clear, open, direct, all that stuff. John, letting me know I am here and that I exist. That's excellent, because sometimes I kind of wonder today. I've been reading a lot where in certain parts of the country, or in certain parts of the world, I don't know how much of this is going on in the US, but I do know it's been an issue in Europe in particular. Streaming sites like Netflix and like YouTube have had to drop their bandwidth a lot, because with all this distancing and all the stay-at-home orders and everything, everybody is using their internet. And it's kind of, again, one of those hidden problems that we haven't really talked about a whole lot, is this kind of surge capacity even of our technology infrastructure. So maybe that's going to be another thing. It's going to be really interesting to see what changes happen in society and stuff on the other side of this. There's a couple of different schools of thought about, is this going to change much? Are we going to go back to normal, quote unquote normal? after this is all said and done in a few months. I kind of hope not. I hope, like I said before, we're learning some lessons about healthcare access and healthcare affordability and all those kind of things. Hopefully, we're also going to learn things about our infrastructure and maybe where we should be investing a little bit more in things like that. But so let's see what else is going on in the world of COPD. Again, not much going on outside the elephant in the room right now. Another report of a medication called ensifentrine, which I believe is kind of a non-steroid anti-inflammatory. If that's the one that I'm thinking of, that's a nebulized deal. Oh no, they're looking at it in a meter dose inhaler now. Okay, so that does seem to work. So it's kind of nice to have another thing potentially in the pipeline there. I don't know. Looks like that's Verona Pharmaceuticals, but one of the things that we have seen in particular with COPD, lack of COPD awareness, is we've had a simultaneous lack of COPD funding. We're still looking for our ice bucket challenge, our turquoise takeover like they do for lung cancer. We're still looking for our pink ribbon, all those things. We haven't really had that campaign that really grabs the public interest as much as we would like. So hopefully that day is coming. In the meantime, it's always nice to see when we can have a new therapy, whether it's medication or we have here's a news article about lung volume reduction coil treatment enabling some recovery. That's another nice tool to have in the tool chest. But yeah, we don't have a lot of new stuff coming down the research pipe right now. So again, I will go ahead and reintroduce myself. My name is Mike Hess. I am a respiratory therapist, and I am happy to be answering whatever questions you might be having about COPD, about the pandemic right now. I'm going to hop along to a couple of other spots to see if the tech issues that were hitting the microphone and the stream earlier are also affecting some of our... Hey, there we go. Okay, so that's Joe checking in, saying thanks for checking. Appreciate that. Yeah, guess I just don't have a whole lot to say today. We've been having some pretty good interaction earlier in the week. Maybe everybody's just getting a little tired, maybe a little stressed out, which I can certainly understand. This is kind of an off day for a lot of folks. But stuff doesn't take a day off, right? So still hanging in there for a little while. If you have any questions about what's going on, make sure you're dropping them in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. And we'll stick around for a little bit longer here. Otherwise, maybe we'll just call a little bit short and see if people want to put together some questions for tomorrow. There is just not a lot going on in the world of COPD right now outside of stuff going on. So the big stuff, I mean, as I call it, the elephant in the room. Apparently there are, my kids were telling me earlier that there are some videos on YouTube that are getting demonetized, which means they're getting deprioritized in search and all that stuff as well. If you mention the dreaded word of the SARS-CoV-2, as the technical name of this bug is, because they well-intentioned, they want to minimize any kind of disinformation, misinformation, all that stuff. But it can be tricky to get some of the good information out there too. So, all right. So let's we'll give that a couple more minutes here. Anybody seen any good movies lately? I don't know. We can have some social time also. Let's see what else we got going on. Looking through some of the notifications here, make sure if you're interested in future COPD Navigator events, make sure you're following our page on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/COPD Navigator, and you just let me pull up that thing right there so I make sure that I'm telling you the right thing. Just hit that like and then hit that little like slice of pie right next to it that says following. Hopefully you think the information is important enough that you can see it in the news feed first, and you'll be notified of every time we're going live, every time we have other updates or other information or other events to share, that sort of thing. Otherwise, it'll show up in the default there, but hopefully we find you find this stuff interesting enough to want to follow. But yeah, that's that. Anybody out there? Anybody still watching? Got a couple of people who are showing up in the count, but I guess just not a lot of questions today. So that's cool though. That's probably a good thing. I mean, if you're having questions and concerns, that means things are not going quite right. So it's probably a good thing if you don't have much in the way of questions, because that means things are going pretty well for you. So hello to everybody who is stopping by. Just checking out a couple other things here real quick. Yes, and we got a new subscriber over on YouTube also. Thank you, Deanne. If you're subscribing to us over on YouTube, where once again the video is at least a little bit streaming a little bit better over there, make sure that you are. Hey, Joe. Joe found us over on Facebook too. Make sure you like and subscribe to us over there too, and you get those notifications. If you have a preferred channel, usually, I will say usually, they both work about the same. This is kind of a weird, quirky thing with YouTube or with Facebook today. It's a little bit unusual that it's quite this bad, but I have seen a lot of interruption on my end. Like I said, with the tech stuff, that seems to be we had some initial hiccups getting the microphone on and all that stuff from the web conference. That seems to have resolved fairly well. But YouTube itself seems to be kind of janky today, so I don't know what's going on. But so one last call for questions, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today and chalk this one up to just some bad vibes in the universe for whatever reason. And we'll jump back into things tomorrow. As I said, try to do this stuff, do a minimum of every 2 weeks, but considering all the cancellations and difficulty getting good information about COPD out there, we're trying to do something every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, at least during the week. We'll see how things go over the weekend, and we'll see how things go until we'll just see how things go, I guess, until get called in for reinforcement and all that kind of stuff. So, but in the meantime, I think we're going to go ahead and shut stuff down. We're going to see how things go tomorrow, maybe. I don't know quite what happened with all the tech issues today. Might want to consider checking us out on YouTube. That was a better channel for consistency today. Whether that will be the case tomorrow or not, who knows? Sometimes you just get these tech gremlins, and that's the way it goes. But it hasn't been quite this bad in a while. But in the meantime, hope you all take care of yourselves, take care of each other. If you have, like I said, if you have those questions, if you need some more information, if you want to help get the word out about COPD, make sure you're liking and sharing and subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you are reaching out to your friendly neighborhood respiratory therapist to thank them for throwing themselves out there right now. A lot of RTs I know are very overwhelmed and swamped, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be getting worse over the next couple of weeks. So if you can take a moment, put them in your thoughts, your prayers, your good vibes, all that kind of stuff. And I know they would appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate it too. So With that, we're going to go ahead and shut it down today. Hopefully, tomorrow will be a better tech day. And in the meantime, I hope your breathing is going better than our stream was today. And we'll see you next time. So take care.